Uh, I want to talk about here about the Vietnamese diaspora here in the United States, and not just that, but anti-communists in general. So the one thing I really am fascinated here with anti-communists is because whenever they see movements for racial justice, social justice, economic and societal justice, they're going to dispute scare tactics in the name of anti-communism to shut down movements for those kind of justice movements. So before I get into that, I just want to say that so Congresswoman Katie Porter of California currently right now is running for election, but it seems like there's a congressional district that is remapped according to an article that I'm reading here. It's from The Hill. It says Katie Porter running for re-election in newly drawn California district. Congresswoman Katie Porter said Monday she will run for re-election in a newly drawn California district next year, a decision that was made public after the state released its final maps for House districts ahead of next year's midterm races. This article was published in um, December 21st of 21. So it says Porter announced her decision Monday. According to I read there, it says the district leans Democratic by 1 point, according to the Orange County Register. Jordan Wong, a spokesperson for Porter, told The Hill in a statement that the Congresswoman is planning to run for re-election in the district that includes Irvine, where her children also attend school, noting that a majority of voters in the district have not been represented by her in the past. Roughly two-thirds of voters in the 47th district have not previously been represented by Congresswoman Katie Porter, and she looks forward to introducing herself to these voters and running a positive and spirited campaign as she did to win close races in 2018 and 2020. Porter may now be forced to face off against Republican Michelle Steele, who is a Seal Beach to register. It's also that Steele runs for re-election in the new House district, encompasses Little Saigon in areas of Orange County. Yeah, one of the that was one of the congressional candidates in the primary, Republican primary. So there you have it. Uh, and then there's a an article by Orange County Register. It says redistricting. Orange County's new congressional district shuffles incumbents. Democratic Representative Katie Porter on Monday said she'll run for re-election in 2022 in a nearly drawn coastal district that includes her hometown of Irvine, not her current House seat. That was from December 20th of last year, this article. Now it says news came after California Citizens Redistricting Commission released final maps for U.S. House in California. The maps, which also changes districts boundaries for state assembly and Senate seats through California, are part of once in a decade process to balance populations and based on latest census. So there you go. There is another gerrymandering right there. So, according to Ballotpedia, there's a election for the Congressional District 47 in California. And it says here, the current incumbent is Alan Lowenthal, which I haven't read yet if he will be running for re-election on another district. But it says here that according to the primaries for District 47 and the primary elections will be held in June 7th of this year. So here they are: Scott Baugh, Brian Burley, Amy Phan West, and Errol Weber. Those are the Republican primary candidates for District 47 of the congressional seat in California. And looks like Katie Porter will be up for the challenge. Now let's go to the Ballotpedia of the elections. So yeah, that's pretty much what it says. So I'm gonna go now to this Amy Phan West, who I believe she's kind of rubbish and she's crazy. So I will send you to the link below, but so she's one of those Vietnamese Americans who are devoutly anti-communist and devoutly Republican, devoutly proud Vietnamese American, waving the former flag of South Vietnam alongside with US flag. And she made this viral ad on her run for Congress that she was sharing pictures of that she said that Vietnam was like this under the communists. And she uses her that, oh, she fled Vietnam after the war, but according to some Twitter comments, she has been busted for basically a lie, that because she was sharing pictures of killings that was never conducted by the North Vietnamese forces but US troops. And one of the videos that was featured there was the My Lai massacre, which was a killings conducted by the US Army. And she featured those pictures. And of course, some Vietnam War veterans and correspondents had lashed out at her for sharing these pictures that of killings that were conducted by not by the North but by the South Vietnamese and the US troops. And this is where she comes in and she says, communists killed my family and they robbed my grandfather's property and they, blah, 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 whatever it is that she calls it. But, one Vietnamese YouTube blogger, Luna Oi, already exposed her as, a liar, and she has been debunking her several times. And so now, if America falls under communism, the last free country on earth is going to fall. Bullshit, As if like America is the only country that has this freedom thing or democracy thing. So, Europe doesn't have this social democracy. Parts of Asia like South Korea and Japan doesn't have this kind of freedom and democracy, but only America. Give me a break. We know she's lying. It's all rubbish. And I'm gonna read this news articles here here's one from Daly Kos. It says, fanatical Republican extremist of the day, Amy Phan West. Welcome to what is the 1072nd original profile here, the fanatical Republican extremist of the day, where we will be discussing Amy Phan West, a 2020 Republican candidate for U.S. House of Representatives, California's District 47 Congressional District, looking to knock off Democratic Congresswoman and master of the whiteboard, Katie Porter. That would be tall in order for the Democratic-leaning district like this one. But then there is the fact that Amy Phan West has some pretty unique and terrible opinions that she likes to share on social media about COVID-19 vaccines and mask mandates, but more concerned about how she spooked the nefarious threat of Antifa. One such example. Cities controlled by Dems are defunding the police. Police have been asked to stand down and allow Antifa and BLM to destroy property, steal, and in some cases rape and physically attack innocent bystanders, all in the name of racial justice. Is that justice? Bullshit. She loves the status quo. She wants you to believe that, like, oh, America's the best, America's this utopia, and if you don't like America, you criticize America, you remind of the communist dictatorship back home in Vietnam, and you want to fall down, it's going to become dictatorship, and they're going to take away my freedom. And nothing has been normal of circumstances of a woman whose parents fled a communist country and came to the United States as immigrants might be inspiring. Amy Phan West takes it another direction and completely as she has sided with an anti-immigrant party and supports the construction of a border wall in the U.S.-Mexico border. Instead, she has decided that the Democratic Party's squad have plans to turn the United States into a communist country. My family fled communism and found freedom in America. Now, Democrats want to turn America into the next leftist disaster, banning dissent, stripping your freedoms, and I will stop this radical squad so America will never become a communist country. Same rubbish bullshit. And that I will discuss that later. Meanwhile, she thinks this felonious hacks of Project Veritas as patriots and one of the exposing liars and traitors thinks that Breitbart and Epoch Times are actual news websites, and there's a secret conspiracy to stifle conservative opinions online and violates the First Amendment rights. Woo! You know, one thing about these right-wingers is that they're doing sense. They like to use this, they like to play the victim whenever they're the ones who are the aggressors or the attackers. They claim that they're victims of a violation of the First Amendment, but it's them who are violating the First Amendment rights. Or in fact, it's them who love the cancel culture, who hate the First Amendment because they don't want their opponents to speak, or they want to be known to talk without any consequences. And so once it hits on them, they love to play the victim. Oh my gosh, I'm being censored. They're going to remove us online. And so we're going to move on into another article. It's from Orange County Breeze. And this was released in January 4th of 22. Was this? Yes, of course. It says, conservative Republican Amy Phan West announced her campaign for a newly drawn Congressional District, California 47. The lines are different, but the mission remains the same. Defeat Katie Porter and her radical field agenda. Republicans deserve a real conservative outsider who has faced the horrors of socialism. And I know how dangerous Katie Porter's radical policies are. And I'm prepared to fight tooth and nail to save our district and country. Yep. West pledges to drive American First agenda by saying, I've seen damaged socialist ideas and have done to our country. We must say no once and for all. I pledge to support the conservative agenda and never give in to special interests, lobbyists, socialist, radical ideas. I'll fight to secure borders and jobs back, stand up for law enforcement, and then defund the police movement, and lastly, stop runaway spending, crack down on inflation, and crushing so many hardworking families. Well, I will send you the news article links, but what I have to say to you is that it's so contrary that she says that she proudly fled the country and America loves immigrants, but then contrast to that, she's supporting a policy that is, against immigrants or, against refugees, but she loves to, but she loves to, other people to back off, but not people like her. But whenever it's like, people like her who fled or her family fled, oh, it's okay. But when it's others fleeing another country, with the same conflict, no, you're not welcome to America. That's always the thing. And that's always the contrast to what other right-wingers and Republicans have done. Let's say example. There's an anti-communist named Ana Navarro who's been a guest on CNN. And she has proudly fled communism from Nicaragua. But at least she was anti-Trump. And she has bashed Republicans who are anti-immigrant. That, I salute her. I salute you, Ana Navarro. But people like her, Amy Phan West, and she's like My family fled communism. I fled to America. I love freedom. But then, like, when it's other countries, she's gonna bash at them. That's always that. Now there's a conflict right there. And so we're gonna go to another article here. But so here's the thing. It's like, so Amy Phan West was born in the early 1980s, but the war in Vietnam ended in the mid 70s. So she acts like she was born in the early 70s and then fled to, Vietnam when she was probably a child. But the Vietnam War had already ended before the year she was born. So how can you say that, oh, my family fled communism thing? Or I fled communism. I don't know what else to say, but you may be lying, Miss Amy, and I truly believe that you're the most pathetic liar I've ever heard. Because you say that you're against lobbyists, but that's exactly the person you criticize Katie Porter is doing. She's criticizing the industrial complexes, the lobbyists, the special interests, the same people you want to impose an agenda for. But you're using this so-called grassroots movement to inflict anti-grassroots agenda, or to become anti-grassroots. So these people, Vietnamese Americans like her, are very not much different from the Vietnamese Americans who fled here. They were like from the boomers and the Gen X, the early Generation X people who are kind of like saying that if you challenge the status quo of the United States, you're going to turn America into communist. If you're going to if you're going to protest social and racial justice, you're going to topple down America, and America is going to become like the communist dictatorship we fled. you know, I don't know what her parents did, or maybe what her grandfather did, as she said that she owned the property. What if maybe it was her grandfather that did something wrong to mistreated the workers and the peasants at the property and the haciendas he owned? That maybe that's why they killed him, because they wanted justice. And let me keep a piece of remind of you that South Vietnam was never a democratic country. South Vietnam was run by politicians who were very corrupt, and they were bootlicking to colonialism and imperialism. It's like they were pro-France and they were pro-US, and the reason why the US was there was because to favor the French and take back the US companies that the North Vietnamese nationalized. And then the US made excuse of eradicating communism, but in fact it was never about eradicating communism, but to impose their will amongst the people of Vietnam. And they wanted to use Vietnam as like their client state to test out their military weaponry, like Agent Orange, for example. How about that? And you see, the one thing about these anti-communists, Vietnamese Republicans like her, and others who are part of the older generations that came here to the U.S. after the Vietnam War is like, okay, so you fled to America, and you have been indoctrinated to this American dream. And of course, anyone that criticizes America or challenge or stand up to the American government automatically they hate America, or want to turn America into another communist dictatorship that they claim that they fled from, or they want to, turn America into another fascist state that they're going to start killing people. That's the hysteria there. And that's one thing about watching out for this anti-communist is, remember in 2020 during the Black Lives Matter movement, there was a Vietnamese organizer, community organizer. He posted a billboard in the yellow and black, painting that said Black Lives Matter in Vietnamese language. And of course, he got a lot of bashing by many of his fellow Vietnamese in his community. And he got harassed, and he was threatened online by these anti-communist Vietnamese. So that's what you have. It's like these people are no different from the other right-wingers who use the to suppress any social justice and other justice movements in the name of anti-communism and eradicate what they call the radical left. And many of these kind of people accuse anyone, even though that they have no affiliation with any left or right, they accuse them of being radical left if they want to advocate against, economic inequality or social justice or eradicate special interests. So that's one thing about people like Phan West and those other, they're like the Cuban diaspora, especially in the state of Florida, who kind of used the anti-communist scare or the communist scare to suppress any movement for social justice and economic equality. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like about these anti-communist groups, especially those who fled from communist countries, is those specific reasons. And now we got these progressive groups who are very pro people. They love the poor and they want to help the poor, and yet they're being labeled as radical leftists and communists. And that's what you've got. It's another Cold War mentality that they inflict. And so that's one thing you've really got to look out for. So example, in Philippines, they have what they call red tagging. And it's going on right now, especially under this presidency of Rodrigo Duterte. A lot of this, people who have been criticizing Duterte's presidency have been automatically, or wanting to fight for, the poor Filipinos, have been, labeled as communists, terrorists, and they did this all in the name of anti-communism and red tagging. And under Duterte's presidency, has created task force to eradicate communism. And that's what you have. And anyone that has been dissenting or any political opponents of President Duterte have been red tagged. And that's what you have here in the US. I think it's called red baiting. But anyway, they've been red tagged. The progressive politicians have been red tagged by this group of anti-communists like the Vietnamese diaspora, who are very anti-communist, and the Cuban diaspora, who are very anti-communists, as terrorists, communists. They want to turn America into a communist dictatorship, start killing people if they don't agree with them. And that's what you have. You have this. These are very dangerous people. So that's something you have to look out for. And I'll send you the news article links of Phan West and the video by Vietnamese blogger Luna Oi, who had exposed her as a liar. So, and I will see you in my next video.